Okay, next update on the Sworks SL8 saga. So it's been another couple of weeks of riding this bike with a super annoying creak, which was only coming when I was pedaling out of the saddle. So high torque situation, an annoying creak. I changed the pedals, the back wheel, wasn't that, so it's definitely coming from the BB area. A lot of comments were pointing the finger at the Rotor Aldhu crankset. I was also quite suspicious of that because the bottom bracket is brand new, as is the rest of the bike. But I was thinking perhaps there wasn't enough grease on the bottom bracket installation or something along those lines. So anyway, took it all apart and I wanted to try a new Rotor Aldhu crankset. When I took it apart, I actually found that the drive side bearing of the BB was no longer as smooth as it was. It was a little bit stiff and ropey. So I thought, okay, it's not the crankset, it's the bottom bracket, and the bearing seems to have suffered for some reason. This bike has never ridden in the rain, so I cannot really see why that would be. But I thought, okay, well, we'll just put these new cranks on anyway. Same axle, put the new cranks on just to see what happens. And lo and behold, the creak disappeared. So I think what it was is the interface between the non-drive side crank and the axle had become too slack, because the thing with the Rotor Aldhu is that it's an interference fit, and every time you put it on, you're squeezing that crank arm up the axle and you're deforming ever so slightly the aluminium each and every time you do it. And when I basically installed this crankset, it was becoming a little bit easier each time to do it. There was less and less of the sliding up the axle feel as you did up the main bolt. So I think that's what it was. Really, it's a design which you don't want to be taking in and out of the bike too often. And I guess it had been done at least 10 times for various maintenance, changing bikes, all that sort of thing, and it's just a little bit too much for it. So that's something to bear in mind. So now, as it stands, it's creak free, which is fantastic because it just does my head in completely when you have a noise like that, and it actually changes the way you ride your bike. I found that I was almost not wanting to push too hard because I would get a creak. I'm not wanting to pedal out of the saddle because of the creak. So I was riding slower because of the creak. So it's great that that's gone. And what we have now, just arrived from China, is the new Cybrei crankset, which I will show you now. So this is the Cybrei packaging, quite nice and shiny, and you get your cranks, and that's the drive side, this is the non-drive side with the axle attached, and then you have your carbon fiber, no less, 52 chainring. Now this is really quite nice. Nice and aero, pretty light, and looks quite good. The 36 smaller inner chainring is just aluminium, nothing too special about that. And then you have the bottom bracket. This is a SRAM Dub 29mm axle, so yet another standard to deal with. And this is the bottom bracket here, which is for the BSA S-Works threaded cups. Actually, I've already weighed this. You don't really need the sleeve. That adds 11 grams. So if you just take the cups of that, 69 grams is quite acceptable. That pops up to 80, so that's not too bad. These are hybrid ceramics bearings, should be quite good. So what does it weigh? Let's see. Now this is quite a similar design and construction to the Rotor Aldhu, and these are actually 167.5, and I will be doing another video where I talk about crank length because it's a very interesting topic, very complicated. There's so many factors going on in that it warrants a video of its own. I did do a video ages ago about the benefits of shorter cranks, which now seem to be very popular. I got there first, kind of. Anyway, so this is 127, and if you add this, we're at 322, add the big chainring. Oops. That's 435. And there, we just need to add the bolts. What's that? 465. And 4 bolts, which are 8 grams for the 4. And we are at 472. Now, the eagle-eyed amongst you will notice that there is an important component missing from this little package, and that is the spider to attach the chain rings to the crank. And I asked for a full chain set, and they didn't send the spider. So I'm gonna have another 2 week wait for the spider, but I'm reliably informed there's about 40 grams. So basically, you are looking at about 510 grams for the whole lot, which is pretty good, but it's not amazing. The Rotor Aldhu is 537, so it is a little bit lighter than the Rotor Aldhu. The cranks are a touch shorter, but I don't think that really does a great deal. If there's a few grams there, that's about it. These are all my different calculations here. But that basically is what it comes to, all the different parts, and I can now get it on the bike and see how that performs. In terms of, performance, stiffness, all of these are very stiff. If you're a professional knocking out 2,000 watts in a sprint and you're fine with these cranks, then you and me, I'm sure, will be absolutely fine as well. So everyone that says, oh yeah, these cranks are really stiff, they're great. I mean, they're all stiff, really. So in terms of what's the best crank, well, we'll have to see how these shift. I'm sure they're fine. They're reportedly shifting very well. So yeah, it just comes down to weight and price. These are actually quite a similar price to the Rotor Aldhu, so there's no real price advantage, which is surprising given that they come from China. And then you may have to pay some sort of import tax and duty when it comes in too. So yeah, outside of Asia, I think maybe you want to go for the Rotor Aldhu unless those 20-25 grams are really important to you. I just wanted to try these, just something different. They are slightly, I do have over here actually, as a comparison, the old Aldhu cranks that came off, so you can see the difference. I mean, the Cybrei is actually wider and flatter, with a bit more of a taper going on. It's quite wide around the axle, which kind of makes sense from an engineering point of view, that shape. So yeah, all good there. A couple of little bonuses that they threw in. This is a freebie, which I think is actually worth about $50 actually, with the bottle cage. It's quite interesting to compare it, because if you chuck this on here, so that's 13 grams. The bolts are somewhere, they don't really add hardly anything. And then if you put on this tune one that I bought, it's the same. Yeah, they're the same basically. But I've tried this tune one, and I don't particularly like it, because you see here how it's quite high up the bottle. So the bottle, you have to sort of pull it out along the down tube, because this is stopping you pulling it up. And so it's kind of a weird motion, I find. Whereas this, like quite a lot of other normal bottle cages, you can just literally pull it out rather than sliding it up and out. So this kind I prefer. Yeah, so there we are. This needs to be tested, but basically, the DuraAce, as I said before, you can see the weights of that. It's a lump. It looks nice, it shifts well, but really at that level, the top end level of Shimano and the price you're paying, it shouldn't really weigh that much. They've gone down this rabbit hole of forged hollow aluminium cranks, and it seems like they just do not want to turn away from that, despite what everyone else is doing. And why would they not try their own carbon crank? Really, the DuraAce is just too heavy for what it is. It doesn't make a lot of sense. So I think there's much better alternative cranks out there. The Rotor Aldhu is pretty good. There's SRAM Red. There's lots of other things you can try, and this hopefully will be good. So yeah, I think let's see. The Rotor Aldhu is excellent, but don't take it on and off too much. And this, let's see how it performs.
You get it?